Hello everyone, welcome back. Working on the Versatile today. Generally I don't have to do videos on that. Dad always knows how to park next to an ant den, good grief. But I don't do a lot of videos on this Versatile just because it doesn't generally quit, because it's a good tractor. It's got a good engine in it and everything. But the biggest problem we've been having over the years with this thing is the air conditioning. And oh, this is real special. I can't wait to tell you guys about it because it's real special. So, yeah, the air conditioning has been a major problem when on this. And, you know, last year I bypassed, because the way this was working, we're going to start with how special this is, get back so you can really get a full view. We have a lower unit and we have an upper unit, okay? And we have one compressor there, and we have a condenser back here. All right? So the way the AC was working, it would come in here, down below, and up top, and then it would, like, the high side would come back together out there, and it would send everything back to the compressor in one line. It's still Mickey Mouse together. There's 8,000 feet of freaking refrigerant line on this. But last year when I was doing the air conditioning, I recharged it with propane. And I was playing hell trying to get it to stay charged, because it kept leaking out. And I figured out that it was leaking. This evaporator core up here was what was bad. So I disconnected those lines. They're sitting down there. And so now the only thing we have that pushes cold is this lower unit. The upper unit, the fan still works. The lower unit, the fan does not work. Dad was out here disking this field. He's almost done now. He's spring toothing it. He's almost done. But he was disking the other day, and he called and he said the lower squirrel cage finally went out, which I'm not surprised, because you guys see how much movement's in there? That thing is shot. The bearings are gone. And it was making noise. And I thought, well, you know, it could just be that it's a little bent. Sometimes it does that. But it got to howling pretty good one time. And I managed to... Usually you could just smack the thing and it would go ahead and work. But it finally gave up. So the thought was, because Dad's tired of running with the windows open, which, go figure, who would get tired of doing that in the dirt? So he said, well, go out there and see if you can get the upper squirrel cage and motor retrofitted into this lower unit so I have some cold air so I can finish up. And then we got a couple weeks before we have to work all the farm ground over at home. So in that time, we got an old camper. It's got like 3 air conditioning units on it. They're upper mount. And I think originally this tractor had an upper AC unit. So what I'm thinking is, if I can get one of those AC units out of that camper, and I think it's AC and heat, but if I can get one of those out, I can put that in, run it right off the battery, and we can eliminate the compressor, the lines, that condenser. We can eliminate all that stuff, including these units here, both of them. So the problem I'm running into, and this is what eats up the majority of my time, coming out here and doing projects like this, the wiring. Whoever had this tractor before us was real special with how they did the wiring. This is after we fixed it. I don't think I have any footage or pictures of what it looked like when we first got it. But whoever had this last, they were not good at wiring. And I'll grant you, I am not a master electrician by any means, okay? I barely understand how electricity works. But I'll tell you this right now. My dad worked for electricians that did know what they were doing, and he taught me how to put wires together and route them properly. So while I may not know how electricity works real well, what I do know is how to route wires and splice them together and make things good and proper. You know, what gauges to use for certain loads. And when I describe to you how the last people had this whole thing put together, you're going to be shaking your head if you know anything about electricity. So getting this apart took a while. And I finally figured out how they had all this routed. This has been a process over the years. One of the first things I had to do, there used to be an old PowerPoint bolted underneath right here. Okay? Just a real bare bones. I don't know if it was for a cigarette lighter or what. And they had that hooked up. And they also had a radio right there, and the speakers were hooked up to it, but nothing worked because, why would it? So one of the first problems we had, electrical related, was that it would just start smoking out of the dash. Well, one day it just started smoking, I guess. It wasn't doing it more than once. And I came out here, pulled the dash off, and the wires were melting because they had power wires hooked up to the ammeter, which makes sense. That's where your power comes in from your alternators so that you can see if you're charging or not, right? They had power wire hooked up to that, run around to here, and they had power wire from the ammeter down around underneath the dash, over. It powered this fan and squirrel cage. It went through here to power the compressor clutch. It went to the upper unit to power that fan, and it all went to the radio, and all of that was run right off that ammeter. I don't remember which wire was melting. I'm pretty sure it was one of the AC control wires. So I took the dash off. I eliminated that. It wasn't even grounded. I eliminated it, the power point. I replaced the wires. I ran a new wire from here all the way down underneath over to here, and we ran it for a while. And then later stuff started acting up over in here. Turns out another wire was melting. So we started replacing stuff in here again. Most of these wires are new. There's only a couple that aren't. And we started figuring out how silly it was the way they put this together. So I'm going to kind of go over here how this all works, because it's real special. All right. From the ammeter, I'm almost certain that's where all the power comes in. From the ammeter, it goes underneath the dash, out through here, underneath the carpet. You can see a little bit of the blue there. And it comes to here. I think this is the main, or is it that one? I don't remember. One of these is the main power. One of these is, okay? The other one, I believe, goes out and up to here, I believe. Because the windshield wipers disconnected. They sacrificed lights and windshield wipers to power 2 units and a radio that didn't work. So anyway, you got power that comes into here at this bottom unit. Then you got a jumper wire that goes up to here, up top, right? These regulators are fine, I guess. That's something, I don't really know. So anyway, you get your power up to here, and then you got 2 power wires. This, I'm almost certain, goes up to the top somewhere. Maybe. And then this one here is the one that really matters, because it comes over, and as you can see, it splits off. It goes to 2 places. It goes over here to the AC switch. That yellow wire goes out to the compressor. And then the other line comes over to here, which is this. This is the power that goes to the blower motor. Wow, that's real complicated, isn't it? And then, most of this is new. These are like one of the few wires I haven't replaced on this tractor in here. I've replaced most of the others. This is a brand new wire. It goes out over there and it runs across, and then it goes over to the compressor. That's what controls the clutch. And then, of course, there's the probe on the switch that tells the thing whether or not to turn on and cool or stop, so it doesn't get frozen over. And Dad did say it was freezing, so I guess the propane's working. This right here is a redundancy, because we thought we had to run the way they had it hooked up on the last switch. They had a power in, and then they had another power jumper over to here, but we didn't need to do that, so we eliminated it. It wasn't working. It was screwing stuff up. I think that may have been so it automatically came on, or so that the clutch always had power no matter what. I'm not sure. But anyway, these 2 wires here, there were actually 5 wires that went through right here. There were 5 total wires that went in here for this blower motor, okay? So you have the power and ground that came off the motor itself. That ground wire there, they grounded right here. Okay, so that's grounded. Then they ran this yellow one right here, because there are 4 screws that hold this into the like the frame and everything that holds the whole assembly in. So they had one screw was where that black ground wire was at. Another screw had that yellow ground wire on it. The yellow ground wire attaches over there. They had the blue power wire plugged into the red power wire. And then they had this, which for the longest time I didn't realize wasn't connected to anything. When we got the tractor and I first opened this up, it was just floating in there. And so I bent it over and I taped it off on both ends. This was covered by other stuff. So yeah, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 separate wires just to do this. And I don't know where the panel's at. Yeah, panel's down here for the switch that runs everything. And you had connectors that hooked into that. Oh, okay, here was the other wire. Yeah. So this actually plugged into... What did this plug into? Was that a jumper wire for something? No, it plugged into... Oh, no, I think I remember now. One of these went from power to the switch, and the other one went from the switch to the motor. That's that fifth wire. I knew I was missing a wire. But that was the extra wire. I don't know how to count. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 separate wires, but really it's just 1, 2, 3, 4. And, see, I'm confusing myself going back over it. I've been sitting here for the past 30 minutes trying to figure this out so that when I hook the new unit in, I don't get it screwed up. This video is as much for my reference as it is your enjoyment. Real Mickey Mouse system they've got going on here. How the tractor has not burned to the ground, I don't know. Because, well, it almost did. And another thing that these people like to do, they ran power wires with no grounds where they needed to run fewer power wires with a ground. And then other times they'd run a whole bunch of grounds and no power wires, or not enough. They love to use smaller wire than they should. Most of the stuff in here, like this is heavier gauge, but that little dinky-doo Dobby crap that was sitting right here, that was like 16. Okay? Now back to what my dad taught me, because he knows how to do stuff properly. When you got heavy load like that, you're running this and all that and a whole bunch of other stuff, and you've only got one input. I don't know if that's like a voltage regulator or a booster or what. It's about got to be something. I don't think power comes in anywhere else on this except from that ammeter. But they were running like a 14 at best. And what you really need to do is run like a 12 gauge wire to handle all that current. Because, it melts. Go figure. You run all that energy through there to power all this crap, and it starts melting stuff. So when we ran new wire, it was at least 14. That's what we had on hand. They love splices. Okay? 1, 2, 3 splices on one wire. Because new wire is just too expensive, for the 4 foot of wire. I mean, man, that probably would have been like, what, $3 back in the day? Oh, boy, that's too expensive. Splices? Oh, so much easier. Especially when, right here, really, this was necessary? To put a splice in and then put another splice in instead of, let's just cut. If it broke here, that's great. Why not just put one splice in? Why would you do it? You're not supposed to do that. Emergency, we need this to run a little bit longer, I understand, but then you're supposed to come back and fix that in the off season. Or if it breaks again, it's an indicator that what you did's not working and you need to do it properly. All right, I understand let's just do the bare minimum to keep it running so we can finish what we're doing, because, well, that's what I'm doing right now. But if that doesn't work, then you need to stop and do it correctly, because otherwise you're just going to tear stuff up and damage other components. So that's kind of what I've been putting up with. One more thing. The green wire there, is run here. That wire used to be, I'm trying to think, I think it had like 5 splices in it, and there were 3 different colors of wire in there, and it runs from this light all the way down, around back, inside to the transmission fluid pressure sensor. So when this light is on, there's no transmission oil pressure. So, you push the clutch in, the engine's not spinning the transmission, which means it's not spinning the pump. And so there's no pressurized oil going to the transmission. Now, that's not a big deal because the transmission's not supposed to be spinning. But when you let out on the clutch like this, if I was just, driving around and that light came on, that's not good. That means you don't have any transmission oil pressure. Yeah, we've been running new wires and everything, and eventually we'll have all this fixed. If I can get an upper unit put in, that would be really nice because we could eliminate all this and then just run dedicated wires off the battery, and I mean like actual wires. Not these freaking dinky dude cheap, oh, I don't want to spend money. I mean, come on. The time for you to pick and choose when you want to spend money and when you want to put in the extra work is not with your wiring. Don't cut corners with your wiring, all right? That's dangerous. I don't even think they know what they did. I think they just kept running wires until stuff worked. That's what I have to put up with. And if anyone's wondering why I don't do more videos, this type of stuff is why. This is boring. It's not interesting. There's nowhere for me to put a camera, and I have no clue what I'm going to run into, so I might get 3 hours of footage and none of it's usable. And all I did was make the phone hot and run out of battery. So I just thought that would be kind of interesting to go over and show people, because I'm still trying to figure out how this worked at all. But don't do your wiring this way, please. It's not safe. It's not smart. It looks horrible. And yeah. By the way, quick thing. Instead of taping all these wires up, I'm going to run conduit over them in some spots. If you need a bunch of like bulk conduit, wire loom is what it's called. The split corrugated plastic stuff you put over the wires. FleetPride.com has wire loom. They've got it from 1/4 inch, I think, all the way up to inch. And they'll sell it to you in like 100-foot rolls, which seems like a lot, but if you do a lot of wiring, you'll go through it pretty quick. And they're actually very reasonably priced. So if you need wire loom, I would go to Fleet Pride and see what they want for it. But that's just something I popped into my head real quick. I'm going to cut it here and fix this, I guess, because I got a mower to work on too. So thank you guys for watching. We'll just catch you in the next one. Man, I always hate taking this upper unit off. I've had it off a couple times, but that doesn't work. That's for all that. Man, look at this. They shoved it all the way up in there. They did all this. I don't even know how they got it in here. And now I have to take it apart again. And hopefully it won't be going back up, because I always hated this one. This is particularly bad. And I was supposed to cut that out, but I never did. This is what I have to put up with.